All right, so moving on to certifications that I would recommend to get if you're going to spend more time in the backcountry. Now, any sort of first aid is going to be beneficial, um, but front country first aid is taught very different than backcountry first aid. Okay, so but anything is better than nothing, absolutely. So first up is going to be what we call a WUFA, which is a Wilderness First Aid Certification. It is a super fun class. Knowles Wilderness Medicine teaches this class. There's also a Red Cross class. There's also a class that we teach at Fresno State to get this certification. A Wilderness First Aid class is typically a 3-day class where they condense everything into those 3 days. And you learn how to treat for longer, and you get a larger scope of practice and basis of knowledge versus a front country first aid. The next tier to this is going to be a wilderness first responder. Okay, this is probably the coolest class that you will ever take if you are at all interested in backcountry travel. It's a 10-day class taught by Knowles Wilderness Medicine. In fact, they offer one up in Mid Pines a couple times a year at the Bug Hostel, which is a lot of fun. And I recommend it. You learn all sorts of stuff. There's a night rescue. You learn how to do splints. You learn how to do first aid care. It's really neat, hands-on class. You learn how to clear cervical spine injury. So lots of really neat stuff there that I recommend. There is a first aid handout on Canvas to go into details. You can buy first aid kits, but you can also build your own first aid kits. So make sure that you are looking into that, as it is one of your 10 essentials. There is a really neat video that's posted on Canvas about how to pack your pack properly that goes into a lot of the detail of where the weight should go and how to move things along. But here's some of the basic principles, okay? As far as the video, that's for those of you who want to go deeper into the knowledge. This is the stuff that could be covered in your quiz, is going to be this slide here, okay? So how do you distribute weight? There used to be two forms of packing your pack. There was on-trail use and off-trail use. We now recommend only using off-trail use, so that one on the right here. And the reason for that is because this on-trail use that it used to be was for packs that had external frames. So if you happen to be using a pack that has an external frame, then you will probably want to pack your pack a little closer to the one on the left. But for most of us, and what most packs that we see these days, it's going to be this off-trail use here. Okay, so this green represents heavy, and so this is going to be your heaviest product that's going to go in your heaviest gear. For most of us, that's going to be water in the form of a bladder. Okay, so a water bladder that you would put into your pack. So heaviest stuff here, you'll notice that this coincides with this part of the chart. So heavy items, water, liquid fuel, any sort of food, and tent. Okay, so these are going to typically be your heaviest items. You're going to have to plan things accordingly. Obviously, we can't make this look exactly like this because we're talking about gear, not just fabric, okay? Then we move into our medium heavy stuff here, okay, which is going to be that yellow cover. So that's going to be color. That's going to be your stove, water filter, canister fuel, and first aid kit. Remember, in our last lecture, I talked about the difference between canister fuel versus liquid fuel, right? Liquid fuel is the one that you pump yourself. Canister is what we're most of the time going to see in the backcountry. I also recommend, with this being the medium layer, that you take your extra clothes that are light and you put them around the outside here. And the reason for that is because it'll help keep your medium weight things in the proper place. Okay? And then this is your lightest product, so that way it's not heavy on your lower back. So that's typically going to be your sleeping bag, but it's also going to be your pillow, any extra clothing, or maybe a foam pad, so on the outside of your pack. There is an art to packing your pack, and it's different for everyone depending on what their gear is. So there's definitely a learning curve. I do want to talk about something, this little feature here, okay? And this is called a magic strap, but that's just what we call it. But it's actually called a load-bearing strap. And what this strap does, they used to make backpacks and like your school backpacks, for example, and they'd only have this strap here to go around your shoulders, okay? And what this meant is if you weren't able to pack your pack exactly right, then the pack would always be pulling away from your body. What this does, this magic strap here, this load-bearing strap, is you loosen it all the way, you pack up your pack, you put your pack on, and then the last thing you do is tighten this. And what this does is it brings the pack from feeling like it's pulling away from your body, and it pulls all of it towards your center of gravity, okay? Making sure that you're becoming used to putting your pack on and off and using that load-bearing strap. Final part of preparation and logistics for backpacking is going to be training or preparing from a fitness standpoint, okay? This is a general outline of something that you might like to do, okay, in preparation. We want to think multi-activity, okay? When we're in the backcountry, when we're on unstable trails, things like that, there's a rotation of our ankles, funky steps, funky rolls, okay? So flexibility is important, cardio is important, resistance training is important, and we want to ease into it so we don't have any overuse injuries. And so for a new hike or a new backpacking trip, if you don't have a basis of fitness, then a good 12-week preparation is what we recommend, okay? We also recommend training hikes with or without a weighted pack, but just not at the same distance as you would do or multiple days as you would normally do, okay? And then specific muscle group stretches and specific muscle group weight training, okay? So think yoga, think taking care of yourself and having sorts of all different types of swimming versus cycling versus running versus walking versus hiking, all sorts of differences, okay?